Hey, what's going on, guys? JMac here. So patch number 4 on the 2.2 PTR was just released today. With it came some pretty nice Witch Doctor buffs, mostly damage-wise. So we're going to go over them real quick, just show you what's changed. Let's go over the abilities first. So the skill rune Fetish Ambush of Fetish Army. Weapon damage dealt by each fetish when it is summoned increased from 250% to 680%. Now this has the potential to possibly help us with some of our AoE issues with pet builds. Currently, from what I've tested so far, which, don't get me wrong, hasn't been very much just yet because the patch just released, I don't think it's actually dealing any damage at the moment. So it may be bugged, I'm not really sure. But potentially, it could be a decent way to get some AoE damage going on. So Soul Harvest, intelligence bonus granted by each enemy harvested increased from 2% to 3%. Seems like a little bit of a strange buff. I mean, it's not really going to do a whole lot. You get a little bit more damage and a little bit more all resist, but in the grand scheme, it's not really going to affect your toughness very much. It's not going to affect your damage very much either. Seems like kind of a strange thing to be on the priority list for Blizzard to buff, but, it is what it is. A buff's a buff, I guess. You can't complain too much. So, summon zombie dogs, chill to the bone. The chill effect is up to 3 seconds from 2 seconds, and then enemies are taking 15% increased damage, up from 10% from all sources. Pretty nice little buff. I like this rune in general for a couple different builds, so that's pretty cool. Now here's a big change that I've been lobbying for a long time, as have a lot of other Witch Doctors. Fetish Sycophant's damage is now increased by your highest elemental damage type at the time of summoning. So basically what that means is if your highest elemental damage on your gear is cold, the fetishes are going to be cold. If its highest is poison, they're going to be poison, fire, physical, etc. So far from what I've seen, they also have different graphics. So if your highest element type is poison, then the fetishes will have a green dagger. If it's fire, they'll have a red dagger. And then if they're cold damage, they actually have the same skin as the Fetish Army Cold rune. They're like little skeletons. So awesome change, probably my favorite change of this PTR patch so far. Alright, let's take a look at the changes to the sets. So the 2-piece for Jade, when Haunt lands on an enemy already affected by Haunt, it instantly deals 10 seconds worth of Haunt damage. This is up from 5 seconds. Really huge single target damage buff for Jade. And the other huge buff was the 6 set. The amount of damage over time detonated increased from 30 to 40 seconds. Another huge buff. It's going to be a huge buff for single target and for clear speed in the rifts themselves. The biggest issue still is survivability in Jade. They either need to up our survivability by a lot, or they need to revert the Spirit Walk changes, one of the two. If they do that, we're going to have an extremely powerful and pretty comparable to other classes as far as what the Jade set can do in solo greater rifting. So hopefully they do something along those lines. So as far as the Zuni set, so the 6-piece bonus was buffed considerably. Enemies hit by your mana spenders take 275% more damage from your pets for 4 seconds. This is up from 150%. Gigantic buff for Carnival especially, because Carnival has the least amount of gearing problems when it comes to trying to get the 6-piece bonus. You don't have to run taskers and things like that, so it's easier to gear for Carnival. That's a huge damage buff. It's still only 4 seconds whenever you tag enemies. I'd still like to see that be 5 or 6 seconds, but with that said, these sets are going in the right direction at least. It's a huge damage increase and will also, really help out regular normal pet builds as well, hopefully. Hopefully it'll actually be viable now to run the 6-piece bonus, because even at 150%, people were still just running normal pet builds without the 6-piece. They would just run the 4-piece bonus for the damage reduction, and then run Homunculus, Tasker and Theos, Ticklandian Visage, things like that. Alright, then the last change, the Zuni String of Skulls, now rolls a plus 20 to 25% Fetish Army damage as a 5th primary affix. Now, pretty big buff overall to normal pet builds. From what I've seen so far, though, it doesn't seem like you're able to roll another stat to more Fetish Army damage. So you can't double dip with the Fetish Army damage. Also, it seems like you're not able to roll any other percentage damage for other skills on top of the Fetish Army damage. So say you wanted to roll Poison Dart damage in a Carnival build. From what I've seen, I believe you have to replace the Fetish Army damage with Poison Dart. You can't have Fetish Army and Poison Dart damage. You could roll something like extra elite damage or something along those lines, or cooldown reduction, something like that, along with the Fetish Army damage. So if they leave it like that, probably not a buff for Carnival, but a pretty decent buff for other pet builds, because you always rolled Fetish Army damage anyways. Alright, I'm just going to show you guys some quick gameplay, mainly just to show off the change to Fetish Sycophants and how they're taking on your elemental damage, and the graphics of the fetishes themselves change depending on what elemental type you have. So we're going to show Cold, just because it's by far the coolest, because all the fetishes turn into little skeletons, which is just awesome. So you got 5 from the Fetish Army itself, and then we'll get another 15 out from the passive. So I'll have 20 little skeletons running around hitting stuff. Not really sure how good Cold is going to be in general, but it's by far the coolest looking out of all of it. Because the other fetishes, all they really change is just they have different colors on their daggers, whereas these are, you know, just a bunch of little skeletons running around hitting stuff, which is really cool. Kind of reminds you a little bit of like a Necromancer from D2 maybe. Gives a little bit of that vibe. So pretty cool overall. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe if you did, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks.